Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Very pleased to bring on a gentleman who I've met in recent months, and he's a real American hero. He earned the Bronze Star. He served this country admirably, still serving in the reserves as a civil affairs officer for the Army Reserves, served for a number of years as a cavalry officer. He served in Iraq and Afghanistan, and has got a very interesting perspective to share with us. He's also raising money to help some of our veterans and their families with the Fisher House, and we'll talk about that. Bobbie Ragsdale III, good to have you on the program. Welcome.
Oh, glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
Bobbie, what attracted you to serve in the military?
Principally, I wanted to serve the community and the country. And when I was about 15 or so, I decided that I wanted to get into government as a career, as opposed to genetics, which was my previous fascination. And I had a belief that I held then and I held now, that one should serve before you lead, that you should follow before you wield the reins of power. And so it was important to me to get into the military and serve for a little while. I didn't really know anything about it, didn't have any family in the military, but I wanted to do, I went to West Point. I was kind of afraid of those initial 5 years commitment on active duty after you get out. And I was like, man, I want to be 27 years old and just starting what I really want to do with my life. But what I didn't count on was falling in love with the Army, which is what happened. And then I stuck around for about 15 years, and it was terrific.
And you served in both Baghdad and Afghanistan. And tell us about your experiences there.
It was amazing. There's no greater privilege and honor than leading America's soldiers in combat. It's just terribly humbling. I was 22 years old. Actually, I just turned 23, I think, and I was thrown into combat with the 4th Brigade, 10th Mountain Division with 389 Cav, and right in the heart of Baghdad. This is the heart of the surge. And I had actually chosen that unit because I've been monitoring what they call the patch chart. You can see kind of in advance who's going to be deployed when and where. Mm-hmm. And I knew that if I chose that unit, I would be able to take over a platoon in combat, which is probably the hardest way to take a platoon. But that's what I wanted. I wanted the challenge of doing it. And one of my mentors explained to me, he says, there's only 3 ways you can take a platoon in combat, and 2 of them are bad. And in fact, that's what happened. The previous platoon leader had been fired. And so I got off the plane pretty much, and they threw me the keys and were like, hey, don't get the wrong people killed. Get after it. And that was a hell of an experience.
So that was during the middle of that surge operation that really turned things around in Iraq.
Absolutely, it really was. We got there and we were fighting tooth and nail every day, just duking it out with the enemy. And by the time we left, things were very stable. It was really, we had transitioned while I was there, and in some cases we might say the war was won or approaching won at that point. There were some things that happened after we left that complicated that. But yeah, I mean, we saw the tide turn because of that surge, absolutely.
And then you go to Afghanistan, which is now our longest war ever. We've been there 18 years. And of course, the enemy there is the Taliban.
Right. And it's more than the Taliban, actually. We often conflate a number of different insurgent groups and just under one umbrella of the Taliban. It's not really true. There's the other big one is Hezbollah Islami al-Gilbudin, which we call HIG. And they actually will fight against the Taliban. So it's sometimes a 3-way battle or more. There are several belligerent insurgent groups that are vying for control of that country, which makes it terribly unstable and very complicated.
Right. Now, to talk a little bit about where we stand today, so of course in Iraq we just have a few hundred advisors, right, currently, but we still have several thousand troops in Afghanistan. Mm-hmm. What should be our status going forward there?
I think the first thing we need to determine is figure out what our end state needs to be. You've got these wars that we went into with sort of nebulous goals, and we never really clearly established what victory looks like. Another mentor back at the academy used to tell me the United States fights wars until we achieve victory or declare victory. But if we want to achieve victory, we need to define what that is and what that looks like. Mm-hmm. And I don't feel like that strategy certainly didn't exist in 2001 or 2003, and it doesn't exist now. Mm-hmm. So I think that the conversation starts around, what are we trying to even achieve? If you had asked me when I was there, I would say that the goal is to create a stable, democratic Afghanistan. Mm. I think that's an achievable goal, or at least it was in 2001. We've done a lot of the wrong moves between then and now that complicate that, not least of which is we really haven't fought an 18-year war. We fought 18 one-year wars. Mm. And that has to do with the way that the military handles the forces in Afghanistan. We, it was over there till the war is won. We come home. World War I, World War II. We sort of changed the model up a little bit in Vietnam, where we were sending individuals on deployment. So you go for 1 year, you rotate in. When that 365th day comes around, you rotate back out. Now we rotate out by unit, which is better because you have a fighting group that trains at home. They go together. They come home together. That's better. But you create these complications where a commander comes in. He's got his own idea for the war. He wants to prove his legacy, throw the football down the field so far, and then punch his ticket and leave. And then a new commander comes in who may or may not fall in on that existing strategy, may have his own way of doing things. And if they match up, it's great. You can get 2 or 3 years of good progress. It's when one guy has one strategy and the next guy has a completely different take that they end up undermining each other, and we create these undercutting effects that really set us back.
Right. So obviously, it's cost a lot of money. It's cost a lot of lives. And we've had, as you say, these various different strategies in place. I'm hoping that we're going to see maybe a change in direction with President Trump that might be more successful as far as what we do in Afghanistan going forward. He's talking about maybe reducing our troop presence there.
Well, again, it comes down to what we're trying to accomplish. So if the mission is, let's say, foreign internal defense, that's a doctrinal term. It's a mission that Special Forces has, and they can conduct that in conjunction with civil affairs and other elements of special operations, where we go and we send a small group to train and build capacity within a country. That's a great mission. There are people who are trained to do that mission. It takes a very long time. We have to understand that. But if we want to go in and create a conventional presence and occupy a country and create radical regime change, that's a different mission. The problem we run into is we've been trying to combine those missions. We're trying to do foreign internal defense quickly with a conventional force. And we're taking our special operations forces, which are really designed to do that, and we're making them all into direct action assets where they're going to kill capture missions. And so I think everything is kind of on its head in terms of special operations doctrine. And that's where it comes down to, again, to defining the situation. If we had done in 2001, 2003, taken the Marshall Doctrine approach to occupy by force with 1 million soldiers, hold the country for 4 years, stand up a government, tell them what the government is. We've got a pretty good model here in the United States of what a good constitution looks like. The trouble in Afghanistan is we said, hey, Afghans, we're not occupiers. We're liberators. So you develop your own government. Well, the only government they've ever seen, other than the Taliban, is what? The Soviets. So they built a Soviet-style centralized government, which, for reasons that are complicated, will never succeed in Afghanistan.
We have about a minute or so left, and I do want to talk about Fisher House.
Please, yes.
You're on the board there,
yes,
so
sir.
Tell us, and you're also raising money, so tell us about it.
Great. Fisher House is just like Ronald McDonald House. That's the easiest way to think of it. It's comfort homes for veterans and soldiers and military personnel at DOD and VA hospitals. So if you are eligible to be treated at the VA hospital, for instance, you can come in with your family and stay for free as long as your treatment exists at the hospital there. There is no Fisher House at the VA hospital in New Orleans. There are 2 in Mississippi, and there are 3 in Houston alone. But there are none in New Orleans, despite the fact that New Orleans has the flagship VA hospital for the country right now. So the VA has donated us the land, and the Fisher House National Foundation is going to kick in $3.25 million toward the construction. But we have to match another $3.25 to get the thing built.
So how far along are you right now in your fundraising?
Not as far as we'd like to be, but we are moving. We've raised over $100,000 to this point. We have a capital outlay grant in the governor's budget request right now that is going through the legislative session. We have other ways that we're trying to pursue, and every bit counts. So I would encourage anyone who's interested to get involved and think about giving or contributing in whatever way that they can.
And then get more information at the website there, fisherhouselouisiana.org.
Yes, sir.
Bobbie, thank you very much. Pleasure.
Thank you so much.
And thank you for your service to our country, and thank you for doing what you can here to improve our area. All right, when we come back, it's time for the commentary, my final round. That's next, right here on Ringside.